You take an expensive bow. You take an expensive arrow. You take an incredibly skilled archer. And you still miss the target. Let's go. Okay, everybody, keep with our horror theme this month. We are going all the way back to 1981 to look at a little flick. Well, I shouldn't call it a little flick. It was kind of a big flick. It is what it is. We are talking about Ghost Story. But before we look at this any further, before we dig into this gem anymore, once again, and as always, to the trailer.
I will take you places where you have never been.
Does this stop?
I will show you things that you will never see.
Forget you.
And I will see the life run out of you.
Long ago, on a cold, dark night, in this peaceful New England village, something happened. Something too terrifying to remember. Something too frightening to forget. Something that has remained a secret until now.
Is anyone else seeing things? Am I the only one having nightmares?
Universal Pictures presents Fred Astaire, Melvyn Douglas Fairbanks Jr., John Houseman, Ghost Story, from the terrifying best-selling novel by Peter Straub.
Who's this? He's found a picture of her. That's not possible.
The girl, the men, the evil, the silence.
Dad, I'm telling you, something happened. I'm telling you something. I think he may have been murdered.
The house, the fear, the nightmares, the vengeance, the terror, the truth.
Not now, Rick. Yes. Now. Something's happening. Something terrible. I fear that more of us are going to die. No, we must talk about it.
She's not the person you think she is. Who are you?
Oh, please, let's not stop.
She's worried you have the wrong idea about her. Everything about her is wrong.
No, please. Please, let me talk about her.
Get away from her, Dave.
What are you?
She's dangerous.
Listen to me, please.
Soon they will learn that they have never been forgiven. Ghost Story. The time has come to tell the tale.
This motion picture was directed by John Irvin. Who? Let's take a look. We're talking he worked with Schwarzenegger on Raw Deal. He did Hamburger Hill. He did Next of Kin and Widow's Peak and The Dogs of War and Imminent Domain and a lot of TV stuff. You know, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, The Nearly Men, the Sunday Drama. So, he had a solid track record. Not somebody who's sitting there coming out of nowhere. Somebody with, you know, some names. Okay, everybody, the cast in this thing is massive and long and filled with legends. So I can't really spend a lot of time digging into each and every individual. I'm just going to go flying through and cover a lot of bases for a little bit of information just to give you an overview of what's going on. Ready? Let's go. We got Craig Wasson. He was in stuff like Body Double. He was in stuff like Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and Carney and The Boys and Company C and tons of TV work. And you got Alice Craig. She was in Sleepwalkers and King David and Chariots of Fire and Silent Hill and Star Trek First Contact and, okay, I'm just going to throw it out there. For all the Star Trek nerds and geeks, well, I'm kind of one of, if you ever want to see the Borg Queen naked, well, this is your flick. Back on track. We got Fred Astaire. Of course, he was in things like The Towering Inferno and Funny Face and Top Hat and The Barclays of Broadway and Holiday Inn. And Melvyn Douglas. He was in The Changeling and The Candidate and HUD and Fast Company and The Notchka. Tons of TV work. And Douglas Fairbanks. He was in Sinbad the Sailor and Safari and The Prisoner of Zenda and Gunga Din and Captured. And John Houseman. He was in The Fog, Rollerball, The Paper Chase, 3 Days of the Condor, My Bodyguard. You got Patricia O'Neill, or pardon me, Patricia Neal, I shouldn't say O'Neill. She was in The Day the Earth Stood Still, in Harm's Way, in Hod, not TV, Kung Fu Untouchables. You got Jacqueline Brookes. We're talking she was in The Entity, Paternity, and a lot of TV. Another World, Ryan's Hope, All My Children, and on top of that, you have another Star Trek alumni pop up in this thing who, I don't want to name a name. You're gonna see her. I'm just gonna throw it out that she took over for one Kirstie Alley. That's enough. You'll fill in the blanks. Let's get going to the story. Okay, everybody, this motion picture is long and convoluted, and there's a lot going on, but we're going to try to keep this to 90 seconds or less. We can keep it short, keep it fast, keep it interesting, keep it moving until we can get to where we would rather be, or most spend some time. The summation. Let's go. This motion picture starts out, you got these old men, the Chowder Society, and they're all hanging out in front of a fireplace, telling each other scary stories, because this is apparently what they do. And all of a sudden, the motion picture cuts to this guy. He's in an apartment or something, hanging out with this girl. She's nude, she's on a bed, she's looking okay. And he goes over there talking to her. What's going on with you? I need to know the you. I need to know the real you. Whatever it is. He goes to talk to her, she turns around, and it's really a zombie. He goes, whoa, why? He backs up, falls out a window, and falls to his death. Next thing you know, you got one of these old men. You know, the old man from the Chowder Society. He's calling up his son saying, hey, son, you got to come home. Something happened to your brother. Need I say more? You see a guy show up who looks frighteningly, suspiciously, just like the guy who fell from the window. Minus the little cheesy mustache. Anyway, the story continues. The son says, Dad, we got to talk about this. I think there's something going on. I think something bad happened to my brother. And I think it has something to do with the woman he was with. He goes, Dad, I slept with her. I know her. And the father does not want to hear that shit at all. Shuts that conversation down. Is what it is. Next thing you see these old men. They keep having the same nightmare. The Chowder Foundation guys, they keep saying the same things in their nightmares. Oh my God. Oh, she's not breathing. Oh, this, that, and the other. And you can't figure out what's going on, but you know that they're suffering. You know they're all suffering from some trauma event. You know they did something that maybe they shouldn't have done. Well, next thing you know, this guy's dad, Craig Wasson's dad, you know what I'm talking about. He goes out there, he's following this image that he sees in the street in a snowstorm. It is what it is. Follows it to a bridge, and before you know it, a big ghosty scary thing pops up behind him, and he falls to his death. Well, just the way it goes. Well, Craig Wasson says, I'm going to go through my daddy's shit, and he finds a picture of all the members of the, well, whatever, Chowder Society when they were young. In the picture, there's a girl that's eerily familiar, but the face is a little bit blurred out in the picture. You get the idea. Next thing you know, he goes to Fred Astaire and says, hey man, I got this picture. You know what's going on? Well, old man don't tell him shit, but the old man goes to that old house to examine, you know, the old house that chick that they, well, we'll get to that part. Anyway, he goes to this old house and he runs to this nut job. And this kid, nut job. And they say some scary shit to him and he leaves. And you hear those two of those nut jobs talking to some kind of ghostly voice. That sounds a lot like the girl that, you'll see what I mean. A few minutes later, the nut job and the nut job kid, they stop by Craig Wasson's place, which is Dad's old place, whatever, you get the idea. And they drop out a necklace, the necklace that used to belong to the girl that he used to bang and his brother used to bang, but apparently used to also run with the Chowder Society guys 50 years prior, spits it out. So, okay, it's getting complicated. So Wasson takes the necklace and he goes to all the members of the Chowder Society, these surviving three. He tells them this story about, hey man, I was working as a teacher at a college and I met this chick who was working as a receptionist at the college and we got along great. She was this wonderful girl. She was cute. She was pretty, a little bit freaky, and some kinky shit. And we got closer and closer and closer. And then it got to the point where I was going to marry her, fell in love with her, and she started acting fucking crazy. And one of the things that she demanded was that we get married in my hometown, reasons unknown, in front of my family. Reasons unknown. And then started saying crazy shit about showing me things I've never seen, taking me places I've never been, and watching the life rain out of me. I figured I gotta get the fuck away from this broad. And I did, and she disappeared, but then started dating my brother. Before you know it, my brother was dead. And I think it has something to do with you boys. The guys were all like, what? What? No. Don't worry about a thing. Has nothing to do with us. Just go about your merry way, son. Next thing you know, this girl, this ghostly apparition shows up at the doctor's house. One of the four Chowder dudes was a doctor, by the way. Just throwing it out there. And next thing you know, she has a confrontation with him, and homeboy is dead. Well, Craig Wasson goes back over to confront the other two surviving Chowder head guys, and he says to them, hey man, some crazy shit's going on. I need you to tell me the truth. So they tell him the truth. They tell him the story of what originally happened. See, the four chowder guys, way back in the 1940s or whatever, met this girl who was coming through town, and they all started getting along. Great, she became one of them. The five of them together, always off on adventure. Well, she started to fall for one guy, and just when she really was making her moves with this one guy, for some reason he was too nervous because he'd never been with a girl and couldn't really, do things. Anyway, they drove her home. Story ends. But the next day the guys get all drunk. They get hammered. They stop by her house again, and they're all dancing with her, and you're like, are these guys going to do some fucked up shit to her? Well, almost, but no, they don't. They're sitting there saying they're on dance, they're hanging out, and they're just getting ready to leave, and she kind of gets into a confrontation with her boyfriend by using the other guys and says, I'm going to start making out with them and attacking them and being real forceful with them because it'll kind of rub his face in it. So she starts doing that. The one guy calls her a slut. She right hooks him. Is what it is. Next thing you know, she turns around to the boyfriend who she knew somehow already told the other guys that they were fooling around because she was there as they were singing out the window while they were fooling around. I don't know what's going on. But act surprised that he told her. So she turned around to tell the boys that he really couldn't rise to the occasion. And at the moment, he shoves her. And when he shoves her, she falls down and hits her head. Didn't mean it. It was an accident. But they all dive on top of him. And they're trying to save her and bring her back. Can't do it. Next thing you know, John Houseman's younger version says, hey, we can't cop this to the cops. We need to throw her shit in the drink. The guys are like, no, we need to go to the police. And they're like, no. We're going to throw her in the drink. So they take her, they put her in the car, and they roll it right into a pond. But the craziest shit happens. She's not dead. The water wakes her up, and she's trying to get out of the car, and she drowns. And they're like, holy shit, we fucking killed her. They're crying. They're a mess. They're an emotional basket case. Anyway, is what it is. They tell Craig Wasson this. Craig Wasson's like, holy shit, I know my girl is your fucking girl. She's come back. She's going to do some damage. We need to go out to that old house. So they all do. Well, him and the two old men. They go out to the old house, and when they get there, what do they find? Well, not that much because Craig Wasson breaks his leg. So Houseman leaves to go get some help where he runs into the ghost on the road of the dead girl that he formerly knew, and he crashes his car and he dies because there's a little psycho kid in the back seat, is what it is. Next thing you know, Fred Astaire says, I need to get the fuck out of here. I need to get you some help because he ain't coming back, apparently. So he leaves, and when he leaves, he runs into nut job number 2, and they kind of have a knife fight, whatever. It's fucking stupid. Anyway, he escapes. Now Craig Wasson's back at the house, all by himself, in that place that girl was renting for the summer, where she was staying, where she died, and the ghost is coming to get him. But Fred Astaire says, if I cop to this and tell everybody the truth, we drag her dead ass out of the fucking pond, she will stop attacking him back at the house. We need to do this quickly. So he gets a tow truck, some cops, they go into the lake, they pull her out, the dead body flops out, Craig Wasson's back at the house, about to be attacked by the zombie, and, well, I'm not going to tell you the tale a little bit, but you get the idea where this is going. That's your story. Okay, everybody, does Ghost Story work? Not really, I'm going to be honest with you. It doesn't really work. Does it mean it's not worth a watch or check out? We'll get to that. Anyway, let's get the big 3 out of the way. First off, the directing. The directing is solid. Irvin knows how to frame a shot. He knows how to make something look pretty good. Now, there are problems with this motion picture, but I don't think the directing is one of them. I think a lot of it happened in post-production, and we'll get there as we get there. But the directing, fair enough. The writing is good as far as dialogue and lines. There you will like it. The story is almost completely bizarre, but the writing as far as dialogue will carry you through. There are problems with the writing as far as continuity or making sense that we can get into, and we will, but the writing, is what it is. And the acting's good. The acting is solid. You have a good, solid group. Let's face it, you have a shitload of legends in this motion picture, all people that know how to do their gig, all people that have been in that business for decades by that point, and I mean decades. These are all old people, and this was their all-encompassing last shot at big motion picture stardom. So, except for things of like Love Boat and Fantasy Island, this was it. This was your last time to see a collection quite like that, and they brought it, and so did the younger cast members. So the acting, which is not an issue in this motion picture, was fairly good. So anyway, if you have good directing, and you have solid acting, and you have decent dialogue, what went wrong with this motion picture? Well, let's look at it on a lot of levels. First off, this motion picture was kind of the wrong movie in the wrong time. You're going into something like, all the rage is Halloween. All the rage is Friday the 13th. It was that era of motion picture. And you're throwing in something that is a very slow crawl, which is one of the things about this motion picture. The pacing feels incredibly slow. Even though the movie's a little bit under 2 hours, you still feel like it's taking forever. And it's just the way it goes. So you take this kind of a motion picture and you drop it into that moment in time. Naturally, even if it didn't have half the flaws it has, it would really be a tough sell. I think something like The Changeling is what this movie should have felt more like and should have been more like. Pulled it off much better. But that's one of the issues with this thing. I should say in short, young people that are your horror crowd don't want to see a movie with a bunch of geriatrics in it. And a bunch of old people who are going to see people that were stars when they were young don't want to see a movie with a bunch of dissolving zombies and titties. Wasn't the right marketing, folks. 2, the soundtrack in this thing was so overbearing. I mean, the music is non-stop in your face. This motion picture would have been a million times better if they just laid off the soundtrack, which was omnipresent in your face at every scene and sometimes completely inappropriate for what you were seeing in the scene, where it would make something feel lighthearted as you're about to go into something serious. It would make something sound playful and goofy as you're about to go into something that played scary. I don't understand what they were thinking or doing. It was like somebody said, hey, listen, we throw all the money in with these old actors, we threw all the money in with this director, let's throw the money into the soundtrack and just overuse what's there. And they did. On top of that, you have this motion picture that feels like an old-time ghost story that should have been in black and white from the noir era, and it should have hit you in that kind of a way. You know what I mean? Like the original The Haunting. But it didn't. It was like they took that thing and they married it with an almost Brian De Palma type exploitive, a lot of booby action type of motion picture and tried to connect the two. And they always felt a little bit disjointed. It was one of those things where you're like, what kind of a movie am I watching? Am I watching an old school Hollywood movie that's going to be classically told and well relayed? Or am I watching this movie where I'm watching this hot chick run around naked for half the movie and I'm checking out these like Brian De Palma shots? I think the movie actually would have been better if he directed the whole fucking thing. But that's regardless. So I think that you had this thing that was making 2 different movies at the same time. So with that, you basically had a cool premise and just weird, sloppy execution. It was trying to be too many things all at one time instead of sticking to one thing. So if it would have went the whole De Palma route, it would have been better. If it would have went the old school, The Haunting look, it would have been better. Instead of this mash-up of 2 things that just never quite fit. And finally, those characters that I don't care what happened in the book. I don't even know. They didn't need to be in this motion picture. You literally could have filmed this film 20 minutes shorter and definitely, and I mean definitely, without the nut job character and the little kid character in this. They were completely irrelevant. You could have just blasted by the necklace that gets brought to them. You could have just found that and it would have been okay. Actually, if you went back, I'd love to I should say this. I would love to go in and edit this motion picture and just take out shit that didn't need to be there and music that didn't need to be there. And I'm not being some asshole who thinks he knows the world of everything. I think it would have been a better motion picture. The nut job character and his kid would have been gone. They would have just found the necklace and it would have worked. They would have done it in a more efficient way where you didn't have to bring in these 2 characters that cheapened the movie, made it feel stupid. And like she's out there just bringing in wackos to fulfill her bidding and all this other kind of stuff. So all that kind of shit didn't need to be here. It just brought the movie out of what it was supposed to be into something it shouldn't have been. And I don't know, a few tweaks would have made a difference on this flick. Now, are there any pluses to this flick? Yeah, there's pluses to this flick. You got Hollywood legends all appearing in this thing left and right, which was kind of cool to see them on their last go-round. Their goodbye, hello, goodbye type of thing. It was fun. You know what I mean? It wasn't just them on Fantasy Island or The Love Boat or some cheesy TV show where you're just like, oh, look at, they used to be Hollywood bigwigs and now they're just starring on these shitwad shows. It was nice to see them have that kind of thing. So it was cool to see. The look of the film, again, is not bad. Irvin was an okay director with these kind of things, and he knows how to frame a shot. But some of the editing choices, and some of, actually, obviously what I talked about earlier, the music choices. That's what I mean. This motion picture, I think, took a big hit in post-production. They got the film to there, and instead of making the cuts they needed to make and doing the music the way they needed to do it, and doing some of the effects the way they should have been done, they just kind of went, we're going to too much of everything, and basically overcooked the cake. And one last thing. Maybe it was an intriguing part of the character. Maybe it was not as cut and dry as it should have been. But the whole Alice Krige character, Alma, Eva, whatever the fuck her name is going to be at one point or another, was kind of weird, but kind of murky. You know what I mean? It was nice in the way that she wasn't the clear-cut, cookie-cutter character that you expected, because as she's the victim, is she really the victim? Yes, these guys did a horrible thing. Don't get me wrong. They messed up. But you're supposed to go into this with, like, this girl was taken advantage of, and da-da-da, and all of a sudden you're watching, it's like, these guys are idiots. That chick's, she's dangerous. There's a lot more underneath the surface of this character than you were led to believe. So, was it intriguing that they made her more full and well-rounded? Maybe. Ooh, did it hurt the narrative a little bit? Because she's no longer the scorned victim that you're thinking, and she's coming back and righteous vengeance and all this other kind of stuff to maybe build more tension? It might have worked more if it was that kind of a motion picture instead of one where you're like, oh, yeah, I feel bad. Wait a minute. No, she's not the shrieking violet we thought, and maybe she's as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than those guys. Anyway, get out there, and when you're bored and got nothing else going on, watch Ghost Story. Is it great? No. Is it good? Is it fair enough to give a watch? Sure. And when you do, let me know what you think. Anyway, be good. Take care. Stay out of trouble. Kind to a stranger. Be there for a friend. Blah, blah, blah. But most of all, never, and you know what I'm going to say, take any bullshit from anybody. See y'all soon.